Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. The Young and the Restless preview week of June 30. Cole's goodbye, Holden and Kane's deal, Devon's theory. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal a preview clip has been released for the week of June 30, 2025. It shows Cole Howard, J. Eddie Peck, saying goodbye to his loved ones. Kane Ashby's deception. It is curious that Kane just gave Victor Newman, Eric Braden, one offer for Chancellor. Did Kane really spend all this time, energy, and money just for one attempt to buy Chancellor? Kane might have promised never to mention it again, but maybe that's because someone in Chennal City is handling it for him. The others might not have cell service, but I bet Kane does. What is this? Y&R. Kane Ashby's deception. Kane Ashby stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse suite, staring down at Chennal City bathed in the lavender hues of early dawn. In his hand, his phone vibrated with encrypted notifications, each carrying secrets that only he and his silent partners understood. He had spent months orchestrating this deception. To the public, he was just Kane Ashby, the charming Australian who had once run Chancellor Industries and lost it all, only to rise again with quiet confidence. To his family, he was a reformed man seeking peace, but inside, a storm brewed. 1. The arrival of Holden Novak. It began 6 months earlier when Holden Novak arrived in town, seeking refuge after a series of personal failures in Chicago. Holden had been one of Kane's contacts during his brief foray into real estate brokering overseas. Back then, Holden admired Kane's unshakable charisma and ability to turn any situation in his favor. Kane saw Holden as expendable, but useful. When Holden appeared in Chennal City, desperate for employment, Kane smiled inwardly. He knew an opportunity when he saw one. "Welcome to your fresh start, mate," Kane had said, clapping Holden's shoulder. "Work for me, and I'll make sure you never look back." Holden didn't realize that was the first thread Kane tied around his wrists, binding him to a scheme deeper than he could fathom. 2. The secret empire. Kane's true intentions were far from simple. Beneath the front of launching a consultancy firm, he was quietly amassing real estate and local businesses under shell companies tied to offshore trusts. He had learned from Victor Newman's empire: diversify, control supply chains, influence city planning commissions. But unlike Victor, Kane lacked legacy respect in Chennal City, so he built an illusion of humility, attending Chancellor Winter's charity events, nodding attentively in meetings, praising Lily and Devon's initiatives. When Billy Abbott commented, "Seems you've mellowed out, Kane," he merely chuckled, replying, "Life's taught me what really matters." Inside, he burned with cold ambition. 3. Lily Winters, the collateral damage. Lily Winters had tried to keep her distance, having survived Kane's previous lies, infidelities, and betrayals. But seeing him so dedicated to work, volunteering at local shelters, and smiling gently when he saw her with her children, she began to wonder if Kane had truly changed. One Thursday afternoon, she found him at Crimson Lights, laptop open, reviewing zoning maps and waterline layouts for his development consulting project. "Working hard, as usual?" she teased, sliding into the chair opposite him. Kane looked up, his dark eyes softening. "Always, Lil. Gotta keep the lights on." They shared an easy silence, but under the table, his phone buzzed. A notification read, "Purchase finalized. Holden confirms bribes received." He tilted his screen away, sipping his coffee calmly. 4. Devon's growing suspicion. Meanwhile, Devon Winters found the sudden spike in property sales in Midtown puzzling. The buyers were shadow companies with no digital footprint, all closing within weeks of each other. His intuition, sharpened from years of business warfare with Victor and Adam, told him something was off. One evening, he confided in Nate Hastings over bourbon. "Someone's buying up blocks, Nate, and I think it's someone we know." "Who?" Nate asked. Devon's jaw clenched. "Kane. No proof yet, but it's his style. Secretive, quiet, and always a step ahead of the game." 5. The deceptive layers unravel. Holden's conscience began fraying when Kane tasked him with forging permit documents to accelerate construction approvals. They were sitting in Kane's office late at night, blueprints scattered on the glass table. "Kane, this is illegal," Holden said, voice trembling. Kane's gaze was icy. "You wanted a second chance, Holden. I gave you one. Don't make me regret it." Holden swallowed hard, nodding, "I'll do it." As Holden left the office, Kane leaned back in his chair, staring at his reflection in the window. His conscience whispered words like betrayal, dishonor, corruption. But he silenced them with one thought. "I'm doing this for my future. No one will ever make me feel small again." 6. Jill Abbott's warning. Rumors reached Jill Abbott through her old real estate connections in Australia. She arrived in Genoa City unannounced, storming into Kane's office the next morning. "Kane Ashby, what the hell are you doing?" she snapped. Kane rose, smoothing his suit. "Jill, always a pleasure." "Cut it," she hissed. "You're buying businesses under ghost companies. Don't you think this town has had enough corruption for a lifetime?" He smiled coolly. "I'm building stability, generational security. Something I could never provide Lily before." Jill's glare softened slightly at Lily's name but hardened again. "You're going to lose her forever with this." His jaw twitched. "She's not part of this." Jill shook her head in despair. "She's always part of this, Kane." 7. Holden breaks down. Holden's guilt reached a peak when he discovered Kane had plans to buy out the community center where his sister worked as a counselor. That night, drunk and sobbing on Lily's porch, he confessed everything. "He's lying to everyone, forging, bribing officials. He'll destroy this city to prove himself," Holden cried. Lily's eyes widened with horror and sadness. Her worst fears about Kane had returned like ghosts in the night. She called Devin immediately. 8. Devin moves in. The next day, Devin orchestrated a silent intervention, arriving at Kane's penthouse with Lily, Jill, and Amanda Sinclair. Kane opened the door, feigning surprise. "Morning, everyone. To what do I owe the pleasure?" he asked lightly. Devin threw a folder onto Kane's kitchen island. Inside were copies of forged permits, financial transfers to offshore accounts, and surveillance photos of Kane meeting with city commissioners late at night. Kane's face remained impassive, though a flicker of fear crossed his eyes. "What do you have to say for yourself?" Devin asked coldly. Kane sighed, closing the folder. "That's business, Devin. You wouldn't understand." "That's fraud, Kane," Amanda snapped. "And if you think Chancellor Winters or Newman will sit back while you corrupt city planning, you're delusional." 9. Lily's final goodbye. Lily stood in silence, tears filling her eyes. "You said you changed, that you'd never lie to me again." Kane swallowed hard. "I didn't want to lie. I wanted to give you a life where you never had to worry. I never needed money, Kane. I needed you, an honest you." She turned away. "Goodbye." He reached out, but her retreat felt like the final unraveling of his soul. 10. The Reckoning. That evening, Kane sat alone in his penthouse, the city lights flickering below like dying fireflies. His phone rang incessantly. Lawyers, investors, Holden begging for forgiveness. He silenced it all. He poured himself a whiskey and stared at the floor-to-ceiling windows again. His reflection looked weary, older, defeated. Everything he'd built was crumbling. Devin had already moved to freeze his accounts. Victor Newman's legal team was ready to dismantle his shell companies within days. Jill had threatened to personally drag him to the SEC. His deception, woven with cunning precision, had imploded under the weight of his own desperation to matter. 11. Final thoughts. He thought of Lily's face when she walked away. He remembered the mornings in Paris when she'd wake up beside him, smiling softly, her hair wild and eyes shining with trust. He thought of his children, Sam and Charlie, and wondered what they would think when they learned who he truly was. Kane stood, finishing his drink. He placed the empty glass on the counter, the clink echoing in the silent room. He walked to the window and pressed his forehead against the cool glass. "I did this for them," he whispered to his reflection, though he knew it was a lie. He did this for himself, for pride, for ego, for the darkness inside him that whispered he would never be enough unless he was everything. Outside, dawn surrendered to morning, the sky bleeding gold. Chennal City stirred awake, unaware that its skyline bore the scars of Kane Ashby's deception. Closing scene. As the camera panned out from his penthouse window, we see Kane standing alone, silhouetted by the rising sun. The phone in his pocket buzzes with one final message from Holden. "They know everything. I'm sorry." Kane closes his eyes, inhales deeply, and for the first time in his life, he feels truly defeated. Holden Novak's connection. The Young and the Restless spoilers for the week of June 30 reveal that the preview clip also shows Kane and Holden meeting. Somehow, Kane is in Chennal City already and meets with Holden. The clip shows Kane asking if their arrangement is still being kept under the radar. Holden confirms it and adds that nobody suspects a thing. However, fans know that Victor watched Holden as he was arguing with Audra Charles, Zuleika Silver. At the time, I predicted that Holden was secretly working with Victor. Turns out it was a secret partnership, but it was with Kane. So I wonder what Holden's role in all of this is and what has he been promised. Y&R. Holden Novak's connection. Holden Novak arrived in Chennal City on a foggy Thursday morning. He stepped off the bus carrying only a duffel bag, a laptop, and a half-finished bottle of antacids. The air was humid, clinging to his skin as he made his way down Main Street, his eyes scanning signs and faces with guarded familiarity. It had been 12 years since he'd stepped foot in Wisconsin. 12 years since he'd buried his mother in Chicago and cut ties with every living relative he had left. But now Holden Novak was back, and this time he carried secrets deep enough to fracture every alliance in Chennal City. 1. A face from the past. Holden's first stop was Crimson Lights. He ordered a black coffee and sat in the far corner, laptop open, fingers trembling as he typed. He didn't notice Lily Winters enter until she approached his table. "Holden?" Her voice carried disbelief. "Is that really you?" He looked up, startled. For a moment, his eyes softened and the stoic mask cracked. "Lily," he whispered, standing quickly. It's been a long time." "Since Stanford," she said softly. "I thought you disappeared after your mom's funeral." "I did," he replied, forcing a small smile. Life had other plans." They hugged briefly, an awkward embrace of lost college friends reconnecting in a place neither imagined. 2. The interview. That afternoon, Holden sat in Devin Winters' office, pitching himself for a consulting role at Chancellor Winters. He wore his best suit, navy blue, slightly frayed at the cuffs, and spoke with a quiet confidence. "Your experience in international development is impressive," Devin said, reviewing Holden's resume. "But I'm curious, why Chennal City? You could be in New York or LA." Holden hesitated, his fingers tapping his knee under the table. "Personal reasons," he said finally. "Family reasons." Devin arched a brow but didn't press. "We'll let you know," he concluded, standing to shake Holden's hand. Holden nodded, thanked him, and left the building with sweat rolling down his spine. He knew Devin wouldn't trust him immediately, but he didn't need trust. He needed access. 3. Kane Ashby's hidden recruit. That evening, Holden received a call from an unlisted number. "Meet me at the Grand Phoenix Bar, 9 p.m. Kane Ashby's voice drawled. "We need to talk." Holden arrived early, sitting by the window overlooking the city. When Kane entered, Holden's heart pounded with both dread and relief. "Kane," he greeted, standing as the older man approached. "Sit down, mate," Kane said casually, clapping his shoulder. "No need for theatrics." They ordered bourbon. Kane swirled his glass, regarding Holden with shrewd eyes. "I hear you're back. Looking for work," Kane said. "Funny timing, isn't it? Just as I'm rolling out my expansion plans." Holden swallowed hard. "I need a fresh start," Kane smirked. "You need a lot more than that, Holden. You need money. You need protection. And I need a discreet operator who knows how to keep his mouth shut." Holden looked down at his glass. He felt the heavy chain of obligation tighten around his neck. "I'll do whatever you need," he murmured. Kane's smirk widened. "That's what I thought." 4. The connection revealed. What Kane didn't know. And what Holden protected with his life was that he wasn't merely a desperate man looking for work. Holden Novak was the illegitimate son of Victor Newman's deceased brother, Matthew Newman. A product of a fleeting college affair, he had grown up under another name, abandoned by Matthew before birth, raised in hardship, and forced to fend for himself after his mother's death. At 19, Holden learned the truth when a dying aunt revealed his real lineage. "You're a Newman, Holden," she whispered on her hospice bed. "Your father was Matthew. Victor Newman. He's your uncle." The knowledge felt like a curse. Holden buried it, never seeking out Victor. What good could come from it? The Newmans were billionaires. He was just another forgotten secret. Until now. 5. The threat. The next morning, Holden sat on his motel bed, scrolling through encrypted emails on his laptop. One message glowed ominously. From unknown. "We know your truth. Work with Kane. Deliver the files, or your secret becomes public." His stomach roiled with nausea. He knew this was Kane's doing. He had connections deep enough to uncover anything. But the message wasn't signed by Kane. Was someone else pulling strings behind the scenes? 6. Claire Grace's kindness. That afternoon, Holden visited Memorial Hospital to consult with their development team, a side gig arranged by Kane. In the hallway, he bumped into Claire Grace Newman, Victoria's daughter. "Sorry," he stammered as she steadied herself. "No worries," Claire said, smiling. "You're new in town, right? I saw you at Crimson Lights." Holden nodded, embarrassed by her piercing blue eyes. "Yeah, Holden Novak." "Claire," she replied, shaking his hand warmly. "Welcome to Chennal City." Her kindness struck something dormant in him. As they chatted briefly about his work and her upcoming art therapy sessions, he felt a flicker of hope. Someone here saw him as a person, not a pawn. 7. The betrayal. 2 nights later, Kane summoned Holden to his penthouse. "I need those files by tomorrow," Kane said sharply, sipping scotch. "The Newman pipeline expansion bids. You're consulting there now. Get me the internal budgets." Holden's stomach clenched. "That's corporate espionage, Kane." Kane's eyes darkened. "You want your secret safe or not?" Holden nodded silently, defeated. That night, he sat in his motel room, staring at Claire's number saved on his phone after their brief conversation. For the first time in years, he wanted to call someone, to confess everything. But he didn't. 8. Devin's discovery. Meanwhile, Devin Winters had initiated a quiet background check on Holden, suspicious of his quick integration into Kane's projects. Nate and Amanda watched as Devin paced his office, reviewing search results. "He's clean," Nate said, scrolling through Holden's criminal records. "Nothing here." "That's the problem," Devin replied. "No one's that clean." 9. The confession. Friday evening, as storm clouds gathered over Chennal City, Holden met Claire again at Crimson Lights. She was sketching by the window, raindrops sliding down the glass. "Hey," he said softly. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, you okay? You look shaken." Holden sat down heavily. His eyes welled with unshed tears. I don't think I am okay," he whispered. She reached across, placing her warm hand over his trembling one. "Tell me." And so he did. He told her everything. His father's abandonment, his mother's death, his secret Newman bloodline, Kane's blackmail, and the files he was ordered to steal. When he finished, Claire's eyes were full of tears. "You can't do this," she said firmly. "You have a choice." He shook his head. "If I don't, everyone will know. Victor will hate me. I'll lose everything before I even have it." "Holden," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "You never had it to begin with, but you still have yourself." 10. The confrontation. That night, Holden sent Kane an encrypted message. "I'm out. Do what you want with the secret." Minutes later, Kane arrived at his motel room, fury blazing in his eyes. He slammed Holden against the wall. "You think you can walk away from me?" Kane hissed. "I won't hurt innocent people for your greed," Holden gasped. "You think Victor will embrace you? You're a stain on the Newman name." Holden smiled weakly. "Maybe, but at least I won't be a thief." Kane drew back his fist, but paused when a quiet voice spoke behind him. "That's enough." They both turned to see Devin Winters in the doorway, arms crossed, flanked by security. 11. The aftermath. Kane was arrested for attempted assault and conspiracy. Holden sat in Devin's office the next morning, hands wrapped around a steamy mug of coffee. "Why didn't you tell Victor sooner?" Devin asked gently. Holden shook his head. "I didn't want his pity, or his hatred. He deserves to know," Devin said. "Your family, whether he accepts you or not." Later that afternoon, Holden stood outside Newman Enterprises, staring up at the towering building. His phone buzzed with a new message. From Claire. "No matter what happens in there, you're still you. Call me later." He inhaled deeply, pocketed his phone, and stepped forward into his fate. 12. Epilogue. Holden's connection. Victor Newman sat behind his mahogany desk, gazing coolly at the young man before him. His eyes narrowed, assessing Holden's every breath, posture, and micro-expression. "So," Victor said finally, his voice low and gravelly, "you're Matthew's son." Holden nodded, meeting his uncle's gaze. "I didn't come here to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know." Victor studied him for a long moment, then leaned back in his chair. "You have my eyes," he said quietly. Holden swallowed, tears burning his eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged to something bigger than his own shadow. As he left the office, the sun broke through the clouds, flooding the lobby with light. Holden Novak stepped outside, feeling lighter, stronger, and ready for whatever battles lay ahead. For the first time, he wasn't alone. He had Claire. He had the truth. And he had a name that, for better or worse, would always connect him. Cole Howard's goodbye. There is also going to be a heartbreaking goodbye. Cole is still in the hospital with Legionnaire's disease. The man has asked Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinel, and Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron, to come to his hospital bedside. Cole then says that he needed them both there in time. A confused Claire asks, "In time for what?" That is when Cole tells Claire and Victoria to say our goodbyes. What are the chances that since Claire can't reach Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, Holden is the one to console the grief-stricken blonde? What is this? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to keep watching the soap on CBS or Paramount Plus to find out what is coming up next. Y&R. Cole Howard's goodbye. The morning sun rose pale and cold over Genoa City. In Memorial Hospital's oncology wing, machines beeped softly. Nurses moved with hushed urgency, and the sterile air smelled of antiseptic and sorrow. Cole Howard lay in bed, eyes closed, chest rising shallowly beneath starched white sheets. A vase of fresh lilies sat by his window, their sweet scent clashing with the chemical chill of the room. Victoria Newman sat beside him, her hand wrapped tightly around his, as if her grip alone could anchor him to this world. Claire Grace stood by the window, arms crossed over her chest, staring out at the city skyline. Her father's words from the night before haunted her. "Don't be afraid, Claire. I'm ready." 1. Memories of Tuscany. As Victoria watched Cole sleep, her mind drifted to Tuscany, years earlier when they first fell in love. He was teaching literature at a small university outside Florence. She'd come to visit him during summer break, escaping the chaos of Newman Enterprises to breathe in art, wine, and poetry. They spent mornings wandering vineyards, afternoons reading Neruda beneath cypress trees, and nights making love with the windows open to moonlight. Back then, he was her escape, her calm, her place of safety. Now, as he lay dying, she wished desperately to return to those rolling hills, to the sound of his laughter echoing through stone courtyards. But life had marched on. Tuscany was a memory, and Genoa City was where their goodbye would unfold. 2. Claire's anger. Claire wiped her eyes, frustrated with herself for crying again. Her father was brave. He accepted what was coming with quiet grace, but Claire felt robbed. They had just begun rebuilding their relationship after years of distance, after secrets of her paternity tore them apart. She turned to Victoria, voice tight. "Why is he giving up? There are experimental treatments." "Claire," Victoria interrupted gently, tears filling her eyes. The doctors tried everything. His liver, it's shutting down. The cancer spread too far. He didn't even fight. Claire snapped, then immediately covered her mouth, guilt surging through her. She ran out into the hallway, chest heaving. 3. The confession. Minutes later, Cole awoke to find Victoria alone beside him. He studied her face, memorizing the lines of sorrow, love, and exhaustion etched into her beautiful features. "Where's Claire?" he asked, voice rasping like dried leaves. "She needed some air." He nodded faintly. "She hates me right now." "No, she doesn't," Victoria said, brushing a tear from his temple. "She loves you. She's just scared." Cole stared at the ceiling. "I'm scared too," he whispered. "Not of dying, but of leaving her without knowing how proud I am of her." "You can tell her," Victoria urged softly. He swallowed hard, pain flickering across his face as he shifted. "Bring her in." 4. The goodbye. Claire re-entered hesitantly, her eyes red. She sat on the other side of his bed, folding her hand around his cold, bony fingers. "Hey, Bug," he croaked, smiling weakly. "Don't call me that," she whispered, tears spilling over her cheeks. "You always hated it," he chuckled, coughing softly. "Listen, I need to say this while I can." She nodded, wiping her eyes furiously. "I know, I wasn't there for you. I let my own pain, my fear, keep me away. But Claire, you're everything I ever hoped my daughter would be. Strong, brave, smarter than I ever was." She sobbed, leaning down to rest her head on his chest, feeling the weak flutter of his heart. "I love you, Daddy," she cried. "I love you so much." His fingers brushed her hair gently. "I love you too, Bug. Always." 5. Victoria's grief. Victoria watched them, her heart aching with memories. Despite their divorces, affairs, and betrayals, Cole had always held a tender part of her soul. He was her first true love, the man who taught her passion could be both consuming and gentle. When Claire finally sat up, Cole turned his gaze to Victoria. His eyes, once a warm hazel, were faded with exhaustion, but they still shone with love for her. "Vicky," he whispered, "thank you for Claire, for giving me the best part of my life." She took his hand in both of hers, pressing her lips against his knuckles. "I wish I could have given you more." He shook his head faintly. "You gave me everything." 6. The final hours. As evening fell, Cole drifted in and out of sleep. Claire curled up in the recliner by his bed, refusing to leave. Victoria called Nick and informed him in a trembling voice that Cole wouldn't make it through the night. Nick offered to come sit with her, but she declined softly. This was their moment. At 2:13 a.m., Cole woke one last time. The machines beeped steadily as he stared at Victoria. Then Claire, his breathing ragged. "Promise me, you two will take care of each other," he rasped. "We promise," they said in unison. He smiled, eyes closing. "I love you." The heart monitor slowed, then flatlined. The long, shrill beep echoed through the quiet room. Claire screamed softly, pressing her face into his chest. Victoria covered her mouth, sobbing as nurses entered silently to turn off the alarms. 7. The aftermath. Later that morning, Victoria and Claire walked out of Memorial Hospital, the early sun blinding. Neither spoke as they climbed into Victoria's car, tears silently rolling down their cheeks. As Victoria started the engine, Claire reached out, gripping her mother's hand. Their eyes met, grief mingling with a fragile strength. "We'll get through this," Victoria whispered hoarsely. Claire nodded, swallowing back a sob. "He's not gone. He's in us." 8. The funeral. 2 days later, the Abbott Chapel was filled with mourners. Victor Newman sat stoically beside Nikki, his jaw clenched as he watched his daughter break beside the casket. Nicholas wrapped an arm around Victoria, supporting her as she read her eulogy through tears. Cole Howard was a man of literature, of poetry, of love. He taught me to see beauty in broken things, and though we broke each other at times, his love left me whole. Claire spoke next, her voice shaking as she read a poem she'd written. "You walked me to the ocean's edge, and told me life is waves and sand. Today the tide pulled you away, but footprints stay upon the land. The room fell silent, tears falling freely. 9. Holden's arrival. At the wake later that evening, held at Society, Holden Novak arrived quietly, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit. He approached Claire with gentle solemnity. "I'm so sorry, Claire," he said softly. "Your father, he was a great man." She nodded, her eyes glassy with grief. "Thank you, Holden." Victoria eyed him curiously from across the room, unaware that Holden carried his own secret, a connection to Cole's past in Florence, one he hadn't yet revealed. 10. The secret letter. That night, alone in her hotel room, Victoria unpacked Cole's belongings. In the side pocket of his worn leather satchel, she found an envelope addressed to her. With trembling fingers, she opened it and read, "Vicky, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I wanted you to know something I couldn't say aloud. When I left for Florence years ago, I tried to forget you. I dated, I taught, I drank too much red wine. But no one ever replaced you. You were my muse, my fiercest friend, my best love. Thank you for Claire. Thank you for every sunrise we shared. I go now with peace, knowing you will take care of her and yourself. I love you forever." Cole. Victoria pressed the letter against her chest, sobbing as the last ties of their love story unraveled into memory. 11. The sunrise. At dawn the next morning, Claire stood on the Newman Ranch balcony, a mug of coffee in her trembling hands. Holden joined her, silent, offering her warmth simply by his presence. "Do you think he's at peace?" she whispered. Holden looked at the sunrise, golden rays breaking across rolling fields. "I think, wherever he is, he's watching this sunrise with you," he said softly. She turned to him, tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you." As birds sang softly in the trees and morning light kissed her tear-streaked face, Claire felt a faint sense of peace blooming in her chest. Her father was gone, but his love, his poetry, his gentle wisdom would echo within her forever. 12. Epilogue. 12. Epilogue. Weeks later, Victoria found herself standing before Cole's gravestone with a bouquet of wild Tuscan lilies. Claire knelt beside her, tracing her father's name carved into granite. "Hey, Dad," she whispered. "I got the internship at the Arts Foundation. I hope you're proud." Victoria smiled through tears. "He's always proud of you." As they walked back to the car, the wind rustled the grass, carrying with it the faintest whisper, like pages of a well-loved book turning in the breeze. Victoria closed her eyes and heard Cole's voice. "I love you, Vicky, until the last line is written to Genoa City."